A while back, Fast Company viewers saw our exciting coverage of the IMSA GT Series at Riverside and the tremendous competition there between John Paul Jr. and John Fitzpatrick. This week, Fast Company continues its IMSA coverage at the Laguna Seca International Raceway in Monterey, California. John Fitzpatrick and John Paul Jr. are again side by side on the front row of the starting grid, both of them driving Porsche 935 twin turbos. Since IMSA began in 1971, every overall champion, except one, has driven a Porsche to victory. But there's a new exciting element to this particular race, the appearance of Brian Redman, one of the world's greatest endurance drivers, in his brand new racing car. Let's go to Bruce Flanders at Laguna Seca as Fast Company brings you the exciting Monterey Triple Crown 100-mile GT race.
On the coast of California, between San Francisco and Los Angeles, is one of the prettiest places you'd ever want to be, Monterey, California. And it is the site of Laguna Seca Raceway, where the IMSA GT Challenge is happening. With me, John Morton. John, tell me about the field.
Well, on the pole is John Fitzpatrick in a Porsche. On the outside front row is John Paul. But there's the car to look at. That's Brian Redman's new Lola GT prototype. The maiden voyage for this car, it's qualified in 5th position, but look for it to do very well.
Porsches, Lolas, Mustangs, Camaros, Corvettes. We've got a lot of really wild race cars and some great drivers. So we asked these drivers about this racetrack.
Fast, difficult, and dangerous.
Nobody will get past you here. It's just so narrow.
Very much a driver's track. It's good for our Miller Mustang.
Possibly faster than Riverside, although it doesn't look like it when you go around it.
Well, here they come on that warm-up lap, and they are zigzagging back and forth, warming their tires. John, why don't you set the field for us?
Well, on the pole in the white Porsche is John Fitzpatrick, the series champion. John Paul Jr. in the blue one. Bobby Rahal in a Porsche. Klaus Ludwig in the Mustang. And Brian Redman in that GTP Lola.
So the bright yellow Lola sitting back around the 5th qualifying position. Now, as they come off this corner, this is turn 9, I think, right?
This is turn 9, and the start happens right after this turn.
All right, watch them. They're a rolling start in IMSA racing, and they're looking for a green flag coming right now. So let's get them set up as they come off the corner. And they are bunched tightly. The field's ready. The flagman ready. Look at Bobby Rahal in the dark car. A Texas start by Rahal as he tries to get everybody before the flag turns green, and it apparently does not work. Jumping out early into the lead with his headlights on is John Paul Jr., and running second, it looks like Fitzpatrick. Boy, that's a heck of a way to start a race.
That was a nice try by Rahal, but it didn't work out.
All right, Paul is running his headlights. Why would he be running the headlights in a day race?
Well, it's to signal the drivers that he will eventually be lapping, that he's charging, and to get out of his way.
Well, those turbocharged Porsches really come off the corner, and we'll set this field for you again as we look at it. There's John Paul in the light blue car. John Fitzpatrick in the 2nd place, also a Porsche. 3rd place, Bobby Rahal in the dark blue car, and then the Mustang. That's kind of an unknown quantity, isn't it, John?
Yes, it ran very well 3 weeks ago or a month ago in Atlanta, its debut. Ran in 2nd place to John Fitzpatrick, and they look for it to challenge very well, very hard today.
Well, this is a snaky racetrack. Keeps them on their toes all the time. And here comes John Paul Jr. around to complete lap number 1. And how far are we going?
We're going about 100 miles, which is a good question because these Porsches can only run about 100 miles. And if they turn their boost up and run hard all day long, they won't run 100 miles.
These are the same cars, too, that go at it for 12 hours and 24 hours, don't they?
Yes, it is, but they run much less turbo boost when they run the long-distance races. They've got the turbo screwed up to about 800 horsepower now.
800 horsepower, turbocharged Porsche. John Paul Jr. out in front of it, who normally teams with his father in the long-distance races, John Paul Sr. Of course, that would fit. Anyway, in 2nd spot, it's John Fitzpatrick, whom we saw win Riverside just a couple of weeks back. And he is putting on a drive right now, trying to close the gap. But John Paul Jr. looks awfully smooth.
Yes, he does. For a 21-year-old, he's an exceptionally good driver and getting better all the time.
All right, Fitzpatrick in the 2nd place spot. Again, a turbocharged Porsche. And the turbocharged Porsches have effectively dominated this sport. What we are learning, though, now is that IMSA is changing its rules, its rule interpretations, and it opens the door for the Lola and the Ford Mustang, doesn't it, John?
Well, the Ford Mustang is really the same class as the Porsches. The Lola is a whole new class that was initiated last year, but has not been accepted it until this year. This is the first real serious contender for this GTP class.
There are 3 different classes out there, I think, then at the same time, and obviously there's a very sick Camaro getting just dusted off right now. Well, it looks like it from here anyway. Out in front of it, in the blue Porsche, is John Paul Jr. In the 2nd place spot, it is John Fitzpatrick in the white Porsche. 3rd is that Mustang with Klaus Ludwig. Fourth place spot, who's that, John?
Ralph Stommelin in the Porsche, and then Bobby Rahal, who's been passed by those last two cars, and then Brian Redman, followed very closely by Danny Ungaius.
And it looked like Ted Field right behind Ungaius.
That was his teammate Ted Field, right.
Quite a field out in front of it at the moment, and the Mustang and the Lola are both in the top 6 at the moment and running hard. Well, there's a good shot of John Paul. As we pointed out already, one of the smoothest out on this racetrack. And this racetrack is not kind to you if you're not smooth, is it?
No, it isn't. You're looking at turn 2 right there, and that's one of the most treacherous turns on any track in the country. One small mistake there, and you've bought a lot of trouble.
Now, the discrepancy level in these classes, as we were pointing out early, there's some Camaros that are normally aspirated. There's some Corvettes that are carbureted. They don't make a lot of horsepower, and as you pointed out, they run local events. Now, the fast guys coming up on them come up miles an hour quicker, don't they?
Yes, that's why it's so tough to drive one of these turbo Porsches.
Uh-oh, John Paul off the racetrack. Our leader off, apparently gets back on it and continues on, so he's okay.
Yeah, it looked like he tried to go under a car and got in a little too deep, went wide, and then didn't make the right-hander. But he didn't lose that much time on that play. That was a very good save.
Ooh, there's some great racing going on. Oh, and another one off the track. Who's that?
Stommelin. That's Stommelin. Looked like he tangled with Klaus Ludwig in the Mustang.
And he was in a good position inside the top 5.
They were racing very close together, and I think they touched.
And apparently some kind of a fire. He had to grab his own fire bottle to put it out.
Well, that's a shame. That was the 3rd and 4th place cars, and they were going to make a strong run, it looked like, on this man, on John Fitzpatrick. Unfortunately, they're out of the race. And there's John Paul. We talked to him earlier about what it's like to drive around this difficult course in 800 horsepower cars.
In my Formula Ford, I was always pretty much wild and on the edge, and in these cars, you play it a little more conservatively and use the horsepower more to your advantage than, whereas not diving into the turns and scrubbing off speed.
Well, that's something that some people have a rough time equating to, diving into the corner and scrubbing off speed. There's John Paul out in front of it, and so far, a beautiful early part of the race for him.
Yeah, these Porsches usually turn the boost up early in the race, and they'll put out another 50 or 60 horsepower and then back off a little bit in the middle stages.
They can adjust the boost right from the driver compartment, correct?
Yes, they can. They've got a gauge and they've got a knob, and they turn the knob and look at the gauge and it tells just what they've got.
There's your battle for the 3rd place spot, and both of them are Cooke-Woods Racing Team cars. The blue one, that's Bobby Rahal. The yellow one, the Lola, belonging to Brian Redman. What kind of a deal is that for teammates?
Well, it's hard to say. Various teammates have various rules, but this is looks like it's going to be a very tight race. We talked to Bobby Rahal about what team strategy they may be using.
I think Brian's going to be the guy to really worry about, to look for. I take it there's no collusion or interaction between you two. Once you get out there, it's every man for himself, right? Well, that's what I feel. I think that's what he feels. Obviously, I wouldn't create an incident where he and I both dropped out of the race because of some fault on my part, and I'm sure he wouldn't do it, if it was his action. So, may the best man win. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It's happening right now. There's 3rd place, the dark blue car. That's Bobby Rahal, the Porsche. And then the Cooke-Woods Lola. In fact, both of them are Cooke-Woods cars. It's Brian Redman in the Cooke-Woods yellow Lola running right behind him in 4th.
Redman has come a long way, dropped to 7th place on the first lap, and now he's trying for his teammate. There he goes to the inside, and it looks like he's got him. He's got his teammate Bobby Rahal.
Well, with a beautiful move right there, too, as they come up on some slower traffic once again. And it is the Lola now in 3rd. And let's just see what that Lola can do. Brian Redman flat shoveling that Lola around this twisty snake of a racetrack. He did not start off with the best position on the grid. And earlier, Rob McFarland had a chance to talk to him about grid positioning and the race itself.
Still basically very hopeful about the race because the Porsche turbos cannot run the power that they run in qualifying. And therefore the great problem is I'm now back in 5th place on the 3rd row of the grid, and that means you're in a vulnerable position early on in the race for any incidents that might take place. And on this particular track, it's extremely difficult to overtake. So I'm going to have a job overtaking possibly 4 or 5 other cars. But the car can do it, and I think if we hang in there and try and stay out of trouble, try and avoid hitting the other back markers, which I did last week in Riverside, went straight into one, we should be in good shape. The car is very good, and it runs all the week, all in qualifying, on its race rubber and with the race engine. In other words, we don't have anything special on it. We can run the race at the same pace that we run in qualifying, and I don't think the Porsches can.
Well, you heard Brian Redman. He thinks the car can do it, and I think he may be able to do it. He's three-time Formula 5000 champion, and he's really on the move now.
Well, I'll tell you what, John Morton, you're correct. He is really on the move now in that yellow Lola. And we're going to be back at Laguna Seca in just a few moments to see more of Fast Company.
This Bud's for the guys who got what it takes to shake, rattle, and keep on rolling.
This Bud's for you, for all you do. The king of beers is coming through.
Yeah, just for you, that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do.
This Bud's for you.
This is Bruce Flanders along with John Morton, and we're back at Laguna Seca for the IMSA Challenge race once again. And in our sights, the yellow Lola. And Brian Redman has been putting on a drive with that one, huh?
He certainly has. He hung back for a while, and then he just started picking off car after car. Now he's right on John Fitzpatrick's tail. That car is running second, Redman in third place, and it looks like he's got Fitzpatrick's mark, but we'll have to see if he can get by.
The traffic here, it just amazes me when they catch these slower class cars. It's got to be an ungodly feeling to come through there.
It is. It's very difficult. You've got to take a few chances if you're trying to make up time, as Brian Redman is, because this is very, very difficult, like driving on the freeway at 150 miles an hour.
All right, well, the top one's out in front still. It's John Paul Jr. In the second place spot, it is the white Porsche with Fitzpatrick. And in third, that's the Lola that's come from, whoa, who's that?
That's Dennis Ozzie in a GTO car, Porsche Carrera.
And it looks like he got off into the dirt, thought it was a motocross.
I think he went off on the outside of turn 8 and went back across the track.
Good shot right there of Brian Redman trying to gobble up a couple of the back marker smaller motored cars, and Redman is deep in traffic.
And Rahal's trying to get by again on the inside. Rahal's making a serious move on Redman in all this traffic.
That's right, that dark blue Porsche of Rahal, his teammate. Boy, teammate Heck, he's out there for the checkered flag himself.
He must have turned the boost up, or Redman lost considerable time in that traffic jam.
Snaky part of this racetrack as they get past the Corvette. Whoops, there's Rahal trying him again. Bobby Rahal has got the pressure on him.
Trying to go to the inside of turn 4. He doesn't make it. Now up the hill, the Porsche should have a little bit more horsepower.
Well, for a pair of teammate cars, they might as well just bolt them together. They're both running third and fourth right now and doing a beautiful job through an amazing amount of traffic. And we had a chance to talk earlier to Brian Redman about how tough it is to pass on this particular racetrack.
Very difficult, either in traffic, when the Porsches go off boost a little bit and have trouble getting back on again, or more likely braking into turn 9. But the quicker Porsches are extremely quick into turn 9. I've seen this in qualifying, and it would be hard for me to get close enough to them to actually overtake. That's about the only place.
All right, Brian Redman, always interesting to talk to, and I hope we get a chance to talk to him yet before this is over. There's a good shot of his car, the Lola, and there is second place, and that's who he's closing in on, right?
Yeah, he's catching John Fitzpatrick very, very gradually, but I think consistently. The gap opens up and closes as traffic dictates, but he's generally making a charge that I think is going to net him second place very shortly.
There's probably a lot of the turbocharged Porsche fans who are wondering whether or not their reign is about to come to an end with this particular race, John.
Well, we'll have to wait a few minutes for that, but it's certainly, the Lola is certainly showing itself very well in this race. It's much underpowered compared to the Porsches. It's probably 150 down, but up on handling, and this is a handling circuit, so it's excellent for this car.
Yeah, but Redman is having a very rough time trying to shake his Cooke-Woods teammate Bobby Rahal in the dark blue Porsche. Rahal is on him.
Well, these Porsches, towards the end of the race, which we're getting into now, they turn their boost back up and say, the heck with the fuel economy and the heck with the tires, I'm just going to go for broke.
All right, well, let's set them for you once again. Out in front, it should be John Paul in the blue Porsche with the headlights burning, and there he is on camera right now. In the second place spot, not far back, we find Fitzpatrick. And on the tail of Fitzpatrick, the yellow Lola, and behind him in the third place spot, our fourth place is Bobby Rahal.
Redman's closed up a little bit more on this lap. He's about second and a half behind now, and he gains a lot of time going into turn 9, as he talked about earlier. I think if we see a pass, it's likely to be there.
All right, well, there he is, closing once again on Fitzpatrick. And can Fitzpatrick tell that he's back there?
He certainly can. He knows absolutely well that he's back there, and he's going to be pushing for all he's worth these next few laps to try to open it up. I don't think he's going to possibly be able to. Redman made an attempt there in turn 7. Now we're coming down to turn 9, and that's where Redman will probably try to make a move on Fitzpatrick. That's turn 8 into turn 9. Heavy braking. Redman tries to go to the inside, then the outside. Fitzpatrick closes the door on him, and Fitzpatrick is trying to hold him off by a little bit of defensive driving.
Yeah, I followed a guy like that on a freeway just the other night. They can be tough to get around. There's some wild battles going on for second right at the moment. And, whoops, who's that?
That's David Deacon in a BMW M1. That's turn 9 he lost it in. Easy turn to lose control. Gets slippery this late in the race. And
Here comes the move. Here comes the move. Watch it. Let's see if it's going to work. Squeezed off, though, by the Camaro, right?
Yeah, the traffic didn't work to his advantage. He's trying to go around on the outside, but Fitzpatrick's holding that inside line, protecting himself there. Redman is trying to out-accelerate him. I don't think the car has the horsepower. Oh, he got an edge.
Boy, door handle to door handle, up and over a blind curve, and there's a lot of those here. Amazing drive right now for the second place spot. John Fitzpatrick in the white Porsche, and in the yellow Lola, as we pointed out earlier, it's Brian Redman going for it. Well, and there is some pushing and really hustling right now. You can see where the turbo Porsche makes more horsepower and where the aspirated Chevrolet engine Lola can't. And it makes for an interesting battle between these two guys. We had a chance to talk earlier to Fitzpatrick about his driving style.
I don't like to block. I mean, that isn't my way of driving. If someone can get past fair and square, that's okay. I might do it on the last lap.
Well, it isn't the last lap yet, and you saw some defensive driving so far. Let's see if Redman can do it this time. Outside of turn 7, fading. Fitzpatrick still holding that inside line into turn 9, and Redman can't do anything with him.
Oh, but they are going at it hammer and tong at the moment. Fitzpatrick in that white Porsche with the number 1, a hard-earned number 1, too.
Very hard-earned. He came over here from England last year and won the IMSA championship hands down, defeated everybody soundly in that Dick Barber Porsche 935. This year he's sponsored by Sachs, and Dick Barber is no longer in the scene, but it's still the same finely run team.
Well, boy, it is a strong battle going on, and the Lola is trying to catch Fitzpatrick, and it's got some of the Porsche people a little worried right now.
I'm sure it has. I imagine the hierarchy at Porsche has dreaded this day for a long time, and I think we're going to see the dawning of a new era, perhaps.
Dawning of a new era. And who's that?
That's Jack McAfee, one of Fitzpatrick's crewmen, and he looks quite worried.
He has every reason to be worried as the Lola is starting to make dents on the rear end of that Porsche. He wants by, and Brian Redman, when he wants by, is going to find a way.
It looks like he made it that time. Fitzpatrick looked like he moved over and let him have the inside right at the last second, and now Redman is in second place, and now he's got one more guy to pass.
And that one more car is right there on your screen. That's John Paul Jr. out in front of it, smoothly out in front of it. But I would imagine that pit board signals are telling him now that there's a yellow Lola in pursuit. And in pursuit it is. All right, well, we're going to be back with Fast Company at Laguna right after this.
As of now, you can fly with the Eagles. Because now Goodyear has tamed their racing eagles for the streets as a new line of high-performance radios. Eagle NCT, our ultimate performance radio. Eagle GT, already chosen as the optional radio on the 1981 Corvette. Eagle ST, with performance that belies its price. The Eagles, tamed for the streets, but far from tame.
Chris Flanders with John Morton back at Laguna Seca, and the battle rages on, and especially now out in front. The battle is between Jean-Paul in the turbo Porsche with its headlights on right there, and just a ways behind him, the yellow Lola. They've closed on each other, John.
They have. It looks like Redman is right almost on his tail. He's got some traffic to contend with. That's a Datsun, the slower car, and now he's got him in his sights.
You've been driving IMSA races since 1973. Have you seen any that are quite as wild as this?
I think this is the best one I've ever seen. John Paul Jr. is doing a masterful job in holding Redman off, but I think his laps are numbered.
Laps are numbered. Well, we're going to find out. Here it comes. The race is never over till that checkered flag falls, but feel it right now as John Paul is going to look in his mirrors if he hasn't already and see that bright yellow Lola coming at him.
He's reacting beautifully for a guy only 21 years old because Redman has had so much racing experience that he should have an edge in this traffic and under these pressure conditions.
All right, now the black Porsche right there, that was Ted Field going by. We're into a lot of lapped cars, and we're in a portion of the racetrack they call a corkscrew.
Yeah, that's a very steep downhill right-hander, a left followed immediately by a right, and the suspension bottoms out. The car wants to go out of control and hit the guardrail and do all sorts of bad things there.
Now, in traffic, once again, would you expect who to be the more intelligent on the use of traffic, John Paul or Redman?
Well, I'd say they're probably intelligence. They're equal, but John Paul has a distinct disadvantage because of the turbocharger lag. When he gets bogged down, it takes him a while to get the boost back up, and Redman is just, those Chevy engines are right there when you need them.
Now, the Chevrolet in the Lola is a 350 cubic inch, is it not?
Yes, it is. It's normally aspirated, fuel-injected 350, putting out somewhere just under 600 horsepower.
It's a plenty strong motor.
It's a strong motor. The Porsche, though, is probably close to 8 with the boost up, and I'm sure John Paul's got the boost way up right now.
All right, well, the boost is up for John Paul, and the traffic is beginning to just get knifed through like a knife through hot butter or whatever. Here comes the move. Coming down through that corkscrew area and headed down into, which turn number are we on?
This is 8 they're into now, and there's just a short squirt and into 9. The tight turn where Redman seems to have the biggest advantage, where he got Fitzpatrick just a few laps ago, right there.
All right.
Not quite ready to make the pass yet or the challenge, but he's right there to let John Paul know.
Well, the blue Porsche of John Paul Jr. out in front, and traffic now blocking the racetrack, but a nice squeeze through right there. I think I saw that maneuver on the Harbor Freeway in L.A. about 3 years ago by somebody.
This is very, very tense for John Paul to try to fight through this traffic when it's as dense as it is with somebody like Redman right on his tail. It takes a lot of maturity as a race car driver to handle that situation. He's handling it very well.
Well, John Paul at 21 years of age really is handling it well. The man chasing him, Brian Redman, slightly over 21 years of age, and we talked to him earlier about how he got started.
I was a mop head owner. You know, I had a company that made the things that you scrub the floors with, those woolly things with long heads and a long handle.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I had a Morris 1000 Woody, and I delivered the mops in this Woody, and it had a supercharger on, and I drove like a raving lunatic all the time on the road, and eventually I said, well, I've got to stop this, you know, before somebody gets hurt, meaning me.
Right.
And I went racing, and I couldn't believe it. The first time I entered that car in a race, I could not believe it. In the first turn, at the start of the race, I'm going in as hard as I can, the car's screaming and leaning, you know, and the guy passes me on the inside, and I swerved a little bit. I was so startled, and just as I swerved, the guy comes past me on the outside. And I was so nervous, I couldn't hold the throttle wide open down the main chute, down the straightaway, and I had to hold my right knee with my hand to keep the throttle wide open.
Somehow the sight of a couple of mop handles hanging out the back of this Lola just seems a little strange to me.
Yeah, I don't think he's holding his knee down with his hand right now.
No, something about getting a bigger shoe. Just bury that throttle. But look at this race going on right now for the lead. And it is John Paul Jr. again in that blue one, and in that yellow Lola right behind him, Brian Redman, who we were just talking to, and the gauntlet is on the floor. These guys are battling.
There comes turn 9 again, the turn that Redman will probably attempt to pass. Here he's going. John Paul's fading to the outside again.
Ooh, nearly lost the front end of the Lola.
Yeah, he chopped him off a little bit there. That's the one place, and John Paul knows full well that Redman has got an advantage in that turn, and he's got to do his protection act.
Now, I know the race is raging, but I want to ask you something. Why is that big yellow flame coming out of the back of the Porsche, John?
Well, when they back off the throttle, they go to a very rich mixture because of the way the turbochargers are set up in the fuel injection system, and that's raw fuel burning out the back.
Okay, so there's no major problem with the car then, right?
No, all the turbo Porsches do that.
All right, well, here's a good shot at him. Once again, as they come through traffic, Jean Paul in the blue Porsche, and right behind, well, almost right behind him now, the Lola of Redman.
I'm sure Paul's got the boost turned up all the way. He's driving the car very hard. It looks to be using up a lot of road and sliding quite a bit. Don't know if that's indicative of any handling problem or just perhaps he's pushing the car very hard and the tires are getting hot.
I was going to ask you if the racetrack would be getting a little greasy by now.
Yes, it most likely would, because we had a race earlier in the day before this race, and very likely it's getting greasy, especially in this turn 9. There's John Paul Sr. telling his son something. I think his son knows everything he needs to know right now by looking in his rearview mirrors, though, because Brian Redman has no traffic in between now, and he's hot on his tail.
That's right, hot on his tail for sure. And the tail, there's again the yellow flame that we were just discussing, and it is nothing to worry about in case you're a John Paul or a Porsche fan out there right now. The Porsche is running full song, and the Chevrolet comes charging from behind.
I'm sure Redman's, the race is getting in the waning laps, and Redman is going to have to make his move. John Paul could conceivably hold him off for the entire race if he makes that blocking maneuver into turn 9 every time, because he has an edge in most of the places.
Wow, look at him square off the corners. I didn't think you could square off a corner like that. Here comes the move, and he makes it stick. Brian Redman now has taken over the lead in the Lola, and Jean Paul is relegated to the second place spot.
That isn't where I thought it would happen. That was coming out of turn 7 that he made that move. He faded underneath him, held a tighter line, and out-accelerated him into turn 8.
And apparently, the way he used that racetrack right there, it just used all of the horsepower of the Chevrolet to a distinct advantage.
Well, he used the handling, I would say, of the Lola to cut the turn a little sharper. John Paul went wider. I'm surprised that he did pass there. That was a nice move on Brian's part.
And he's not giving away any ground. Jean Paul is staying right there with him, but it's Redman in front with the Lola, Jean Paul right behind him in the Porsche, and we have swapped.
Well, unless Redman makes a mistake, there's an attempt by Paul to outbrake him into the corkscrew, but he didn't make it. Oh, and then he went wide like he did earlier in the race, wide on the exit to the left-hand part, and lost some time on Redman.
Oh yeah, gave away quite a bit of distance to him, and number 7, Brian Redman, now in complete charge of the race, if you can feel confident at this point. Fast Company is really enjoying their day here at Laguna Seca, so much so that when we come back, we'll be showing you the finish right here from Laguna.
This bud's for the guys who make our engines purr like a kitten and roar like a lion.
This bud's for you, for all you do. The king of beers is coming through.
Yeah, just for you, that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do.
This bud's for you.
In Singapore, where gasoline is $1.70 a gallon, Champion is number 1. Here in England, where petrol costs $2.67 a gallon, the best-selling spark plug is Champion. Hey! In Italy, we pay $3.42 for a gallon of gasoline, and the Champion is numero 1.
Champions are number 1 in the USA, too, and a tune-up with Champions can save an average of 1 to 2 gallons per tankful.
Save with Champion Spark Plugs, the world's #1 seller.
Bruce Flanders and John Morton for Fast Company in the closing stages at Laguna Seca for the IMSA Challenge, and it has been a crazy race.
It's been one of the best races I've ever seen in my life. For somebody to come from 7th to lead one of these races with all the powerful Porsches and their tactics, their horsepower, what have you, for Redman to be in the lead at this point in the race is an incredible show.
Especially with, is this not the debut of this car?
It's the very first race it's ever run in its life.
They're not supposed to win first time out.
No, they aren't, but Brian's done a lot of testing. This is his baby. He almost conceived of this car. It was designed by Eric Broadley, but it was almost Brian Redman's idea from the start. And there you see him get the checkered flag, and Brian Redman wins the first GTP category in the history of IMSA.
All right, now as the rest of them are coming down and they're on the cool-down lap, let's go to some more results on this, John.
Well, the winner, Brian Redman, John Paul Jr., a marvelous race for 2nd, John Fitzpatrick 3rd, and Bobby Rahal finished 4th.
Let's go down to Victory Circle.
You know, I drove as hard as I felt I wanted to, and I felt if I'd used any more boost, I might not have made it on the fuel, and really, you know, I just couldn't stay with John Paul. He drove really well, and in the traffic occasionally I've been near him, but he just drove super. And the Lola, you know, I kept him behind a couple of laps. If we'd been racing for the lead, I might have done it more, but I was happy.
Brian drove me there at the last. We had the tires going off, and I pretty much cooked the brakes, but he drove very well.
Well, for John Morton, this is Bruce Flanders, and what's been a heck of a day of racing at Laguna. Let's go now back to the studio and Mr. Phil Hill.
New cars, new talent. Motor racing challenges even itself in its persistent evolution. We will be here each week to bring you the latest and most exciting of events in the world of motorsports. I'm Phil Hill. Thank you for joining us today on Fast Company.